Hi, my name is Doug. I'm the Floridian Santa. I want to share with you and get a little more personal on my journey on how I've gotten to this point. Let's get right to it. I know that everyone goes through things in life, some worse than others, and I know that mine may seem a bit less than what others have dealt with. However, to get to where I am at and to share so you have an understanding of where I'm at, it started with the passing of my wife. I have shared this a number of times, how God healed me through my love of Christmas. But it wasn't always that way. I want to go even further back. Many years ago, I've shared how my mom loved Christmas. That was her favorite season. But my mom got sick many years back, and she passed from cancer. And it was in the transition between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And for a number of years, I was devastated. And Christmas wasn't always the joyful time that it used to be when I was growing up. And I would try, I would do my best, but when Christmas would come around, the memories of my mom, and then of course realizing my mom was no longer there to enjoy Christmas with me and with my family. And it was not easy for me to always enjoy Christmas. And this all kind of catapulted for me. And it started, it started back in the year of 23. In 23, the summer of 23, we had to put our dog down, my wife and I, and she had gotten real bad off and real sick, and so we had to put her down in August, and we were dealing with that, and it wasn't easy. And if you've had any pets before, you know, they just become part of the family. They're not just pets anymore. I mean, they literally become your family member. And that one kind of really hit us hard. And we got through that, but it was in October of 23. My wife wasn't feeling good, and we finally went to the hospital to do some tests. And that's when they gave us the diagnosis. And they told us what it was. Of course, it was cancer, and we were going to do our best to beat the cancer. But it catapulted, even after a certain surgery that was taking place. My wife had bladder cancer, so they had to remove her bladder. And it had already gotten into the lymph nodes, and it went fast. It was very fast, and it was very violent. And by February of 24, she was gone. And I dealt with that, and of course, it kind of skyrocketed my world. And I became basically kind of like a lost puppy dog, not knowing what to do or what I was supposed to do next. My wife and I, we did so many things together. I mean, everywhere, most of the time, everywhere I was, she was right there with me. And we did a lot of stuff, did a lot of things. We ministered together at my church, and we just did everything together. And then she was not there. And so it was a number of months that I was in shock. And then when the shock began to wear off, I started kind of just fumbling around and going through the regular day. day-to-day basis. I work as a custodian, and now I'm a head custodian at the school that I work at. And so I was doing my day-to-day routine with that, and taking care of my family, and doing the usual routines of the day. And so I was kind of just on automatic pilot, and I was just walking through the motions, and I wasn't sure what to do with the rest of my life. She was no longer there. She was always a part of everything I did, and it got to the point I basically asked God, what's next? What am I supposed to do now? She's gone. The ministry that we did together, we did it together. It wasn't just me by myself. It was always us. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do with the rest of my life. And while I was at work one day, I was cleaning, and then as I was going to check behind a door that always stays open, and usually doesn't get looked behind or vacuumed. So I moved the door because I needed to check and see what was behind there, and vacuum if need be. And before I got to that point, while I was going towards that doorway and was going to clean behind that doorway, I had started thinking about my wife, and started going down a rabbit trail, and just took me to a dark place. I just started feeling more and more depressed the more I thought about it, and the more I thought about her, and the more I missed her. And then it just became a vicious circle, and just didn't stop. And then while I was cleaning, and I opened the door to pull the door and to vacuum behind it, and I noticed that there was a rubber bracelet on the ground, one of those rubber stretch bracelets that always has print on it. And I bent down and picked it up, and when I looked at it, I realized that, like the Bible says, you hear him in the still small voice. I felt that was my still small voice moment, because on the bracelet, I looked at it, and I had been wondering, what's left for me? She's gone, what am I to do now? And as I looked at the bracelet said, your story is not over. And I realized that God was speaking to me, that I have a story as an individual. It wasn't always with my wife. She became a part of my life, and then we had a story together, but it was for a season. And so I realized I needed to go on. I did have something to share. I did have something to give. Now, at the time, I didn't know what it was. And at the time, I didn't have my Santa Claus beard. I only had a goatee. And I was beginning to grow the goatee out a little bit longer, because where I work, the mascot that we have for our school is a pirate. So I thought it would be neat to grow my goatee out long and look similar to the mascot that we have for our school. Well, as it continued to grow longer, eventually one day looking in the mirror, I realized I didn't look like a pirate. I looked more like Santa Claus. So that's when I had the idea, I'm going to get a picture with my grandkids, and I'm going to play Santa. And I decided to grow my beard out completely full. But after I got that bracelet, at the time I looked at the bracelet, I realized God was speaking to me that my story was not over. But I wasn't sure what direction I was going to go at the time. Now, fast forward a year later, I went to go visit with my sister, and I've talked about how I got to take pictures as Santa Claus with my grandkids. And I had got to go visit my sister and in turn get to go see my dad. And I got to dress up in my Santa suit that I have now. And remember, if you've watched any of these before, listened to me before, I shared where I didn't have a Santa suit, and in one day I had two. My one was given to us by a friend of my sister's, and then that same day my sister went to the thrift store and found one that was hardly used for $2. So I went from having no Santa suits to two Santa suits, and I got to go and dress up and be Santa for my dad around Thanksgiving time. And I enjoyed the daylights. That was a good visit. But while I was there with my sister, the whole idea, we were talking and having coffee and just chit-chatting, and the whole idea of the Floridian Santa, the only way I can explain it, it's almost an instant thought was just downloaded to me. We were talking about things we wouldn't mind doing or would like to try, and having something, on the side. And I've always loved to encourage people. I've always loved to teach, and I've always loved to minister. That's always been part of my heart. And so while we were having coffee, within a split second, I just internally heard these words, the Floridian Santa. And I started chuckling to myself, there's no way. That is too simplistic. Somebody has got that. And I checked YouTube and nobody had it. I checked .com, nobody had it. And I said, there is no way. So I went on ahead and got the YouTube channel set, and I went on ahead and got the .com for later down the road, the FloridianSanta.com. And my hope is that by this Christmas, I will be a little further in this journey to where I can actually go out and do some Santa Claus for different organizations, and whether it's free or I get paid, I don't care. I just to go and to spread joy to the kids. And it's not even just the kids that love to have Santa come around. The adults enjoy having Santa come around as much as the kids. When I got to go visit my dad, and we're walking through, it's an assisted living center where my dad is at. And so a lot of elderly are there. And as I'm walking through the hall, I'm getting smiles by these people. These people loved seeing me walk through in my Santa suit. They got tickled over it. And so adults and kids alike, everyone enjoys Santa. And so became what I wanted to do. When I did it with my grandkids, I started wondering and thinking down the road if I could do this for real, because I love making kids happy. I just love making people happy. And I thought, well, let me give it a try. I'll surprise my dad, and we'll see how this goes. Maybe this is just another step towards becoming a professional Santa. And I enjoyed the daylights out of it. And while I was there, I've shared where I went to the Chris Kendall market that they had in Lawrenceville area. And while I was there, I got to meet Buddy the Elf in reality. Now, I've spoken with this guy. I asked him permission if I could share about him, and I did that in one of my earlier episodes, but he gave me his permission, and I don't even know his real name, all I know, to me, he was really Buddy the Elf. And while I was there, I had such a fun time. And he started, he called me Santa, and we just started playing back and forth a little bit with each other in regards to, the characters. But I have had so much fun growing into becoming a full-time Santa. And I realized that there was, like the bracelet said, there was still more to my story. My story wasn't over yet. It was for my wife. She reached the end of her chapter, and I thank God for the time we had together, but she reached the end of her chapter, and it was time for her to go on. And I miss her, but she is happier now than I know she was here. And with me, I'm just going to continue making this journey into becoming a professional Santa Claus. And if you're out there and you've thought about becoming a Santa, or maybe even playing a Mrs. Santa, I know that there is someone, there's a YouTube channel I love to watch from time to time called Santa Tom. And he had an interview one time with, I can't remember her real name, but she goes by Vintage Mrs. Claus. And she plays Mrs. Claus every Christmas, and she enjoys it. And of course, I've learned so much from the channel Santa Tom, and I'm just going to keep going and keep growing and keep moving forward as I become a professional Santa Claus down the road. But the main thing I want to do with this channel is to continue to share with you my experiences, things that I learn about becoming Santa Claus, but also share personal stories of Christmases and Christmas memories that I have, and maybe just help you to enjoy and bring that love of Christmas back, even if we're in the middle of summer, just to continue to bring the love of Christmas. But to finish my story of my journey, it was that through the listening of Christmas music is the factor that God used to help me. Because when I started listening to Christmas music, I started remembering all of the good memories I had growing up, and the memories I had of Mom making the goodies, and all of us laughing and carrying on at Christmas. And my mom used to go and she would get her Christmas shopping done. She'd be done by November. And she would have all of them wrapped, and she would have them hidden all around the house. And there would be a time or two that Christmas would come and go, and we would go to a certain closet to get something, and there would be a wrapped package that my mom forgot about to pull out. And so it was like a little belated Christmas, and we would always get tickled at that. But the memories that I had growing up of Christmas started coming back. And the more I thought about them and the more I listened to Christmas music, the more that depression and darkness just started to lift and come off of me. And I listened to Christmas music a lot. I mean, for a time there, I was listening to it almost completely, constantly, every single day. And I do listen to other things now that I'm on the other side of this journey, and the weight that I felt like I was carrying on me, that darkness, has lifted off. And there are times and there are moments to where it tries to push me down, and because I will miss my wife from time to time. And I know that's not going to go away, but that lost feeling that I had for a little while. It was almost a year that I was feeling so lost, almost. And when I felt to start listening to Christmas music, that's what God used to help bring me out and to help start bringing me forward again. Everyone has something to share. Everyone has something to give. We may not know what it is, but everyone has something that they can give that others need to hear or others need. You've got something special that only you can do. And if you have had an experience like me and you've had someone pass and you're kind of like a fish out of water flopping around and you're not sure what to do, it is a journey, but you will come out of it. You will come out to the other side. Now, I don't know if Christmas music is what will work for you like it did for me. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone is an individual, and your experience, it may be that you go back and listen to music that you enjoyed listening to as a teenager, and when the songs that just made you so happy, that you would listen to in the car when you were driving around. It may be some of that old disco, some of the old rock and roll, some of the, like I like to listen to from time to time now, the hair band music from the 80s. That was big, and that was always one of my enjoyments as well. But it was the Christmas music that God used for me that helped to pull me up and to pull me out of the funk that I was in when I was just kind of felt like I was wandering around and didn't know what direction to take. And now that I have come out on the other side, while I was sharing time with my sister and family, while I was there, I wrote a children's book that I had an idea for, and it's going to be a series of books, Little Santa's Adventures, and it's on Amazon and available, for everyone to be able to purchase and enjoy. And I'll leave a link to it, and you can check it out if you'd like to. But I want to encourage you. I don't know what your story is. I don't know what your journey has been. But let me just say the words that were spoken and the still small voice that God gave me. Your story is not over. Not yet. You've still got something to share. You've still got something to give. And you may not know what it is, but be patient with yourself and just keep taking baby steps like I did, and keep moving forward, and don't give up. Don't stop. And I will continue sharing my journeys with you as I continue to grow into this and share more Christmas memories that I have. But I just kind of wanted to be a little bit more transparent this time, and just kind of share with you a little more where I came from. And it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And I'm having a blast being and continuing to become Santa. Now, one thing I do want to leave with you, as I always leave at the end, always remember this: love never takes, but it always gives. Thank you for spending time with me. God bless. Until next time.